Hi, can you believe it's day 28 already? And if you're like most people, you've come to that place of clarity. And perhaps it's been a little disappointing. Perhaps you've gone, oh, I knew that. I knew that all along, but I don't see how I can get it. Or I knew that, but how can I do that if this other stuff is true in my life? Or I knew that, I did have clarity about it, but it's the same clarity I've had over and over again, and I've never really sustained any great energy about it or been able to stick to it or do anything about it. Well, that is the clarity. The clarity is that you want what you want, that you know what you know, and that it isn't a lack of clarity that stymies you, but it is that feeling like you don't know what to do next. It's my hope that in the course of the last 28 days, I've really given you some tools to work with that. The raising of vibration, the focus wheel, the when my life is ideal, the narrowing things down. I hope all of those are tools to work through these barriers. But I want to speak to one last one today that I also wrote about in the Daily Focus. And that is that so often the reason we can't move forward is because we're trying to please so many masters at once. We want our family to be comfortable. We want to make the money we want to make. We want to be creative, but we also want to be cooperative with our employer. We want to be stable and secure, but we also want to be adventurous. And all of these are pulling at us, and as I say in the article, we bounce from one to the next, pleasing this one and going, and then having an insight about it, and then we get a little bit into that and we realize this other master isn't pleased, and we just bounce back and forth trying to please them all. So what I suggest in the article is that you list the masters that you're trying to please, and then go through each one and make a decision. Decide what you choose. If you, as I said in the article, choose to be near your mother because she's ill, and you say not, oh, I have to be here because my mother is ill, but I choose to be here because I'd like to spend these last days or weeks or months or years with her. Making that choice settles that in your mind and allows your mind to figure out how you can go on about living your life. If you treat it as something you have to do, your mind doesn't do that adaptation. So go through and make your choices about each of the things that feel like the have-tos, feel like the masters you're trying to please. And then once you've done that, think about this thing that you know for sure now and where it fits into your top 5. And think about how important it is to you or how not important. So now you've done that work, you've made your choices, you've resolved some of the masters you've trying to please, perhaps you've let some of them go, and you've seen where it fits in what's most important to you, and you're still saying, I really want this. I really want to move forward with this, and I just support that so wholeheartedly. But you don't need a big explosion now to make it happen. Now's where you're going to come back to your daily habits. And you're going to look at that thing that you want and say, how does it look today? First, I'm going to appreciate everything that is where I stand. And then I'm going to ask, how does this thing I'm reaching for look today? I'm going to read my imagination story. I'm going to look at my top 5 and my markers for them. I'm going to move into that place of what I want before I have it. We've talked about this in, oh my goodness, what, a half dozen different ways over the course of this program, but it's where it lives. You just have to find a way. This is where you get determined. This is where you buckle down and do your daily practice. And this is where you say, what does it look like today? Today it looks like answering an email. Today it looks like visiting a gallery. Today it looks like looking through these magazines. Today it looks like calling a friend and asking for advice. Today it looks like sitting here and doodling about it. Today it looks like going over and sitting down and playing at the piano. Today it looks like talking to my wife. Today it looks like what ways? What ways? And maybe you get really courageous and you say, maybe there are 2 ways it looks today, or 3 ways. And you do 1 or 2 or 3 things that are about the thing you want today. Do that 5 days a week and you've done 5, 10, 15 things in a week. Do that for a month and you've done 30, 60, 90 things in a month about it. It may have just been thinking about it. It may have just been listening to it. It may have been learning something about it. But imagine how many of those little actions of just focusing your attention on what you want, feeling the feeling of already being there, giving your brain the signal of looking for those things that align with what you want, and then taking an action or 2 or 3 each day. Imagine the impact of that over a week and 2 weeks and a month and a few months and a year. Before long, you find yourself in that new place, with that new job offer, with that debt paid off, with that trip planned, whatever it is. You find yourself there and go, how did this happen? Folks, this is the way the pros do it. It's not the way I do it. I bumble over it just like you do, and remind myself and return and do the daily practices and come at it again. But I know that those people who are living their lives the way they want to live them, this is the way they do it. So play with these ideas today. I'm not going to give you a set assignment except maybe playing with what are those masters, as I described in the article. But I want you to let these ideas bounce around in your head today. Let them, the idea of so many masters, let the idea of doing 1 or 2 or 3 things a day, let the idea of aligning yourself, your imagination with what it is you want, and moving there before you have it. All these things that these 28 days these 28 days have been filled with, let them bounce around in your head and kind of settle down and see what's sticking. That's the question I'm going to ask you tomorrow. What sticks? What's holding on? What's capturing your attention? And what makes you want to keep doing it for the next 30 days? And 30 after that. And 30 after that. See you tomorrow on day 29.